Anyone who's been watching the videos on the lifted MX5 will know that the brakes are completely shot on this. I'm not sure if it's just pads and disc problem or if there's something wrong with the brake fluid and that sort of end of things. I don't know much about brakes, so I've never done the ones in my own car. This will be the first time doing anything to do with the brakes, so I'll be learning as I go. It's an off-road car, so that's kind of why I wanted to start with something like this. So the lifted MX5 is a 1.6, so it has the normal 1.6 brakes, but I heard it's pretty easy to upgrade to 1.8. You just pick up new carriers, so that's what I've done. I've picked up 1.8 brake carriers. There are pads in here, but they're fairly worn. I've picked up new ones, which I'm going to be put on. So that's the 4 sets front and back to upgrade from the 1.8 to 1.6 to 1.8. And I picked up just a set of second-hand discs. Discs were pretty expensive for the 1.8 when I was looking it up. I don't have the money at the moment. So when I was picking up the second-hand 1.8 carriers, I picked up a set of fused discs. There doesn't seem to be a lip or anything on them, but they are fairly rusty. So I'm gonna sand all this down, the centerpiece. I want to spray up the center parts. I have black VHD paint, which I'll use for that. And I'll probably spray up on the inside in there as well, if I'm allowed to do that. I'm not sure if you're supposed to. Since I'm keeping the same calipers, pistons and all that, I'm just changing the brake carriers so that a bigger pad can sit on it, I believe. And then the disc is bigger as well. So hopefully it's a bit of an improvement. But first thing I'm gonna do is take these inside and just sand down the center parts and spray them down with black VHD paint. After wire brushing down the brake discs I picked up, they are second hand, so they're all kind of rusty. I've got as much of it off as I can. Hopefully it's okay to put them on the way they are, and the brake pads will take off the rest of it. You can still see there is a fair bit of rust on them. It is kind of just surface rust, but I haven't been able to get it off, and there is no lips on these either, so they do seem to be okay to go on. There's no lip on that one either. I'm after spraying the center parts just so it doesn't rust. I've used VHD, it's like flame proof paint, so that should be fine. And then the carriers as well, I just wire brushed them back and sprayed them black as well. I have new brake pads as well, so these are the rear ones. I basically just went for the kind of cheapest ones I could find. I recognize that brand, I don't recognize this one. That's the name of it there, if anyone knows it. Focus. And then them as well, there must be the front pads, they're a little bit bigger. So I picked up brand new front and rear pads. If we're popping off the caliper here, it is a 10mm bolt at the back here. That pops off and then the caliper can slide up. And then I think it is 2 14mm bolts at the back, and that will allow the actual carrier to come off. Looking up online, it said this was like a 12 or 14 as well, but it seems to be a 10 for me. I just pop this little cover off, covers the bolts. So that comes off, and then it's just a small 10mm bolt. So I'll pop these out and take the carrier off and the caliper as well. Okay, so after that bottom bolt came out, the whole thing slides up. I just took the 2 pads out either side. So next thing I have to do is take out the carrier, which is this piece here. That's going to be replaced with the bigger one here, this one here, for taking the 1.8 pads. So it's the bolt at the top and bottom, 2 14mm bolts. I think I'm going to have to get the disc off. It's fairly stuck at the moment, so I'm just going to hit it with a hammer a few times. Hopefully I'll knock that loose. Hammering the brake disc on it, I basically broke it in half trying to get it off. It was so stuck on there. That is the old brake disc off, and you can see the size difference in these two. So you can see that completely covers it. It is a fair bit bigger, and then that is that one on top of it. So you can see it's relatively bigger than the old disc. So this is going to be thrown on here, and I have to bend out the dust bracket or dust shield or something like that. So I'm going to have to bend out the dust shield as well. You can see that it's hitting off it. So I'm going to bend all that out now. Then I will put on the new disc. brakes are just on now. It was a bit hard to adjust the handbrake and the brakes themselves. There's basically a little adjuster at the back. There was one of the 14mm bolts I took off, and I used one of these hex keys, sort of Allen keys, just in the back. So you basically tighten it as far as you can go, just to where the wheel can't move whatsoever, and then you back off 1/3. It's kind of hard to do on this as the wheels are extremely hard to turn on this. I don't know if it's because of the lift kit, just due to how like angles and everything at this. So the way I was doing it was just where I can move the disc on the hub assembly itself. I made sure that was completely tight, I couldn't move it, and then I backed off a tiny bit to where I could move it there. As you can see, holding it really well, and you can see the handbrake actually works now before you'd be able to throw it all the way up to the back. The front brakes now, it's actually a lot easier than the back. It's the same again, one bolt down here that causes the whole caliper to slide up, and then 2 bolts top and bottom. I think they're about 14mm, and that causes the actual carrier to come off. After that, it's a lot easier to put back together as there's no adjusting. With the rear, there was the handbrake adjustment that you had to twist at the back, and it was a bitch to do. I'd never done it before. It's the first time doing brakes or anything, so it did make it a lot harder. So hopefully I'll be able to do this in a few minutes. I'm just going to pop out those 3 bolts, take off the carrier, and fit the new pads. It's a bigger carrier that's going back on. In some cases you have a 17mm bolt on top and 14 at the bottom, sorry. It depends on year. It was obviously 2 14mm bolts I took off, but sometimes you have to get the bigger bolt to put on, and you basically have to swap around either side and turn them upside down. That's what I've heard before. The 14mm bolts are going in. I've test fitted it there, it's fine. So I'm just putting the 2 14mm bolts back in. There's the pad in place with all the clips. And then I'll just throw the pad on the other side and throw the caliper down, put the bottom bolt in there, and we should be finished to get test these out then. The front and rear bigger pads and discs are now on the lifted MX5. So what after doing is going from 1.6 to 1.8 brake pads and discs from Mark 1. The 1.8 discs and pads that are on it now are actually the same size as what is on the Mark 2 that I have. It's 1.6, but they seem to have upgraded, basically keeping as standard the 1.8 brakes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring it out on the road. I'm not going to properly test it. The car isn't road legal and the field is all blocked in at the moment, and I don't want to take down the gate to get in there. So I'm going to bring it out on the road and just test it going up and down slightly. The brakes before were non-existent. If you put your foot flat, you would go 15 feet at least, so you really had to watch. When I was coming in the gate up there and stuff like that, you had to really watch what was in front of you, as you had no hope of stopping if there was a car or anything on the drive blocking it. So we're going to bring it out now, and hopefully it's a little bit better than before. Just jumping into it straight away, the handbrake is definitely a lot tighter. Before I did adjust it at the back. Oh, what was that clunk? I eventually figured out how to adjust the handbrake at the back. Jesus. So yeah, I eventually figured out how to adjust the handbrake at the back using the little hex key, and that was hard enough to do at the start. I kept getting it wrong, either too tight or too loose, but I got it in the end. So I'll show you the handbrake here. The handbrake is definitely holding a lot better. It feels a lot better as well. So yeah, brakes should feel okay. So we're gonna bring it back. Okay, so into the reverse. Oh my god, the vibrations in this car. Oh yes, we have brakes. I think I might need to bleed the brakes at the front, going backwards, and I'll actually pull the handbrake and see if they're feeling alright. Yeah, they don't feel too good. See, I do have the massive tires in the car, so it is hard to tell with the handbrake and stuff like that. Like I'm pulling up there, and it's not really stopping the car. It's definitely slowing it down, but it's not gripping up the tires or locking the tires or anything like that. The back does have the existing rear pads that came with the carriers, as the ones I picked up, they came in the wrong size. They came in 1.6. The front ones are brand new pads, so that could be why it is, like, when I reverse back and I put my foot on the brake, it's tightening up very well. Clips at my feet. So if I go all the way back and then foot on the brake, it stops pretty quick. Going forward though, it's not as responsive. It's hard to know though, because these brakes were so bad in this in the beginning. It's definitely a hell of a lot better, but it's definitely not like the way it was, like it is on the other MX5. But I do have massive tires on it, which could be affecting it. So just after testing the brakes out there, they're working pretty well. When I'm reversing them and I kind of jam on the brakes, they work very well. Going forward, probably not as much. I'm not sure if it's something to do with the brake fluid or something like that. I'll probably look at it tomorrow if I have time. I'm going to America on Monday, so I don't have much else I'm going to be able to do. I'll probably do one more video or two more videos, actually, restore the paint, and there's one other video I want to do as well after that. I'm not going to say what it is yet. But anyway, that's it for this video. If you like to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and yeah, there's going to be loads more videos on this when I come back from America. These have been spread out, so I'll be coming back soon when this goes out. But I'll see you in the next video.